Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. Slightly later than Bill, but not much. I'm Haggerty 10 Twitter handle, as you can see. Tony Haggerty, joined by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW and Herald Writer, who's in Bodo, freezing. Graeme McGarry, and we're told, Graeme, that it's going to be the Bodo Glimt manager told us all that it's going to be temperatures with the wind chill factors around about minus 13 for your good self tonight.
I think he was cranking it up a wee bit. I've got to say, like, it is freezing. When we asked him about it yesterday, he was laughing when he said it. You know, he was like, "Oh yes, it's going to be the worst weather you'll ever see." And, as you say, Tony, Eunice Kilbride, you're getting a bit of a taste of that this morning as well.
Yes, so, we are indeed. We are coming out in sympathy with the snow here. Yes, a few inches of snow, Graeme, but not as cold as your good self. But you said you went along to the stadium last night off camera there, and you said it's actually a decent surface and decent playing area.
Decent's maybe stretching it, but I mean, in comparison to maybe your Livingston artificial pitch, I actually think it's not too bad. You know, there's a decent thickness to it. I think they've done a great job at clearing the snow away. Actually, inside the stadium, you know, there's not really much evidence that it's Arctic conditions outside, apart from the wind howling through it. So actually, I don't think the playing surface is going to be the big issue tomorrow night. It actually looks okay, but as I said, the stadium's very open, so the wind and the snow is obviously going to be the big factor for the players.
Now, Sean, Sean, your good self and my good self tried to second guess Ange again and put our team lineups up on the Celtic Way.
Yep.
If you can remember your team, Sean, do you want to give us a quick run through your team?
I remember your team as well. I think there's only one difference, but mine's is, well, Joe Hart in goal, which is no surprise. Back four, against my better judgment, I did go for Ralston, Carter Vickers, Starfelt and Juranovic. I toyed with thinking that Ange might reinstate Greg Taylor because I just don't think you get the best out of Juranovic at left back, but I think Juranovic starts, and I don't think you drop Anthony Ralston after being one of the only defenders to play well on Sunday, so I've gone that way. Plus, obviously, Greg Taylor had a poor game last Thursday against the same opposition. In midfield, after our conversation yesterday, I went with McGregor as a single pivot. I just think the speed that he plays through with will be key. I think Celtic will still be on the front foot like they were last week for the majority of the game. It's just I think they'll need to be faster getting through the thirds, and I think he will be key to that. No gripe with the fact that you've went with near Beaton, Tony, but as I said yesterday, I think he's been great. But no, I went with McGregor. With Hatate, I think his energy will be key as well. And then O'Reilly over Rogic, because I think that O'Reilly offers slightly more on the other side of the ball, as well as giving you the kind of creative talents. Plus, it's never a harsh feeling to have Rogic on the bench to come on and try and do something, is it? Up front, again, Giakoumakis hat trick. I don't think even Ange would drop him after that. And then Jota and Abada, either side of him.
Well, my team was more or less the same, except that I had Ralston in place of Taylor. Is that right?
I mean, I've technically got that as well, but it's
Juranovic at left back, and my midfield three was Beaton, McGregor, and Hatate, and the same front three. What say you to that, Mr. Graeme McGarry? Let's pick your team. You pick the bones out of that one, as they say.
You're putting me on the spot here, but as I said yesterday, I do think Beaton will come in for this game as well, Tony. So, sorry, Sean, I think I agree with Tony in the midfield. I wouldn't be surprised either way, though. You know, listen, it's hard.
2-1, Sean.
2-1 Disney cut it. 2-1 Disney cut it.
Nothing actually surprising, you know what I mean? But I think I would go with the more solid kind of base midfield and release McGregor further forward. That's what I would do. But I'm not a Celtic manager. But no, I can see the logic behind it. I just think that, you know, in terms of the game tonight, I know that Celtic are chasing goals, but I just think they've got to be a wee bit more solid in the midfield than they were last week to have any chance. In terms of the full-back positions, I think it will be Juranovic at back as well, and Ralston that comes in. I think Taylor will probably pay the price for the game last week, where, you know, and I think Greg Taylor's unfairly maligned a lot of the time. I think he's a good player.
It's 2-1. It's 2-1 right enough now, Tony, isn't it?
Totally is.
It's called an equaliser, is it? Yeah.
But I do think tonight, because of what happened last week, I think he'll go with the Ralston and Juranovic at left back. I agree with Sean. I don't think that gets the best out of Juranovic, but he's a more solid option there, I think, for a fixture like tonight.
Now, here we go. It's the day of the game, and we're a few hours away, and Celtic are chasing goals. Now, can Giakoumakis bring that domestic form into a European game, Sean? Can he be the hat-trick hero again, which would take Celtic through, obviously?
No pressure or anything.
No pressure on the big man, and no pressure on the guys at the back to keep a clean sheet for the first time in Europe this season.
I would suggest it's more pressure on the guys at the back, despite the fact that Celtic obviously need to score a couple, because it's not. You've said it yourself. You said it in your preview as well. This would be the 7th. Is that right? 7th away match in Europe without a clean sheet if they don't do it. Obviously, the old thing about as long as you score what you need to score, that kind of thing. But it would help if they didn't concede. Let's put it that way. Up front, I mean, Giakoumakis. Do you know, there is an inkling in the back of my head that says he's not going to start him for some reason, but I just don't see the justification for it. So the benefit of having him on it, I mean, Tony, I've spoke to you and Alison about it numerous times about his one-touch finishes and the 6-yard post runs and all that. Even if Celtic, which they did on Thursday and all right, it didn't pay off, kind of regress into this match mode where they kind of cross more than they need to cross, that kind of thing. They throw crosses into the box. If they do it in the right way, with Giakoumakis there's always a chance he gets on the end of stuff. Now, I would argue Kyogo, when he was fit, also liked a cross along the 6-yard box, a low cross and stuff. But Giakoumakis in particular, if they do regress into that kind of mode, at least there's a chance that he will convert it, because that's meat and drink to him. He likes that kind of thing. Primarily, though, I think Ange will be looking for just a generally much more incisive display than what they put in on Thursday. They did regress into that cross kind of thing, but it was without any sort of aim a lot of the time. So on this occasion, I think he's going to want mostly to prove a point, prove that they are on a par with a well-drilled team like Bodo Glimt, because like I said yesterday, while their reputation might not be there, sometimes I would take the identity and the well-drilled nature of the team over a team's reputation.
Graeme, who's under the most pressure to perform tonight for Celtic, the defence or the attack?
The defence, absolutely. I think the attack's kind of proven itself. I think everyone's kind of on board with Ange's attacking philosophy, and guys like Jota, Abada have been absolutely fantastic. Giakoumakis, I think, despite Sean's reservations, I think he might start. But I definitely think he'll start. I don't see Ange pulling a kind of surprise in that regard. But I think defensively is where the big question marks are. You know, you spoke about this is the 7th away game, I think, and in the 6 before, Celtic have lost 15 goals. You know, so it's a lot of goals to concede. And when they step up a level, they've got it all to prove for me that they can actually remain focused and keep the back door shut. And I think when I spoke to Ange yesterday, he was very sort of cognizant of that. He said, you know, like, yeah, we're always confident we can go and score goals and take the game to people, but we need to be more focused at this level. And I think that's right. So for me, yeah, definitely the defence has got it all to do. But again, as you're speaking about our lineups, you know, we're chopping and changing all the time, which doesn't help. But I think the key to this game tonight isn't going to be can Celtic score goals. Celtic can score goals. It's whether they can keep it out at the other end and keep both sides out.
Jim Stevenson there says if Celtic concede first, the game's over, and a lot of comments coming in about injuries. Sean, is that the main concern for Celtic? Injuries to key players at the beginning of the season?
No, I think the main concern is trying to get through the tie, first and foremost. But I mean, the subplot to any Celtic game this season has been: is anybody injured? Is anybody getting rolled out? But no, I think primarily it's got to be going through. I mean, I don't think Ange will even consider that that's not the first priority.
Graeme, same for yourself. First concern is getting through the tie if they can.
Definitely, I think the way Ange spoke yesterday about the whole European sort of adventure for Celtic, you know, I think in terms of the growth of the team, he really values these different experiences and the different sort of calibre of opposition, different style of opposition that Celtic are coming up against. So I don't think he'll be treating this any less seriously than the very first European game at Midtjylland. I think he'll be. Hopefully the personnel's a wee bit stronger, but I think he values European competition. It's important to the club, and I don't really see why he would. I kind of get the argument that the league's more important, but this is also important, and I think Celtic have got the squad now where they don't need to kind of weaken themselves unnecessarily and not to take this as seriously as any other game.
Carol's comment there, he thinks the league's more of a priority this season, but I'm of the same opinion as you, Sean. I don't see why Celtic can't be competitive on both the European and domestic front and be involved in the latter stages of all competitions. It's just the way I am. I said the other day that there is a certain amount of prestige involved in winning the inaugural European trophy, and I think Celtic should give their all and see what happens. I feel we are going through Hart will need to have a top game. What's that? We're going through Hart will need to have a top game. Right? Sorry, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of people were talking about that the other day about his response to the Dundee goals. Maybe could have done better. Robert Kennedy, fancy a Celtic win. Not sure if he'll go through though. We kind of touched upon that the other day, didn't we? We had a couple of predictions. I think myself and Graeme believe that Celtic can win this game, but maybe not necessarily the tie. Joe Hart, do you think his contribution has been poor the past couple of games, Sean?
I wouldn't say poor, but he's certainly able to be questioned, especially with the kind of set piece goals and stuff. As we kind of alluded to yesterday, I done a kind of deep dive into that kind of thing, and there is a question mark over Hart's contribution to a few of the goals that they've conceded from set pieces. I've said a few times to you and Alison over the course of the season that he doesn't tend to come out and claim crosses or set pieces anyway, so there's almost an argument that the defender shouldn't assume that he will. But regardless, there is still the argument that he should more often. And Dundee was a good example of that. I think that was a bread and butter type of come out and command your 6-yard area type of either punch it or catch it. And the situation doesn't unfold as it does. And there's been a couple of times that could be argued this season with Hart, I would say.
Graeme, do you agree with that? I'm loath to criticise Hart because I think he's been absolutely sensational signing for Celtic, and the experience he's brought and just his general knowledge of the game, he's helped others around him. But, the last couple of games, people sort of criticising his lack of, as Sean says, lack of command in the 6-yard box, possibly kind of refusal to come out for crosses, but just maybe not part of his game. Do you see that as a kind of weakness?
I do. I think everyone knows what Joe Hart brings to the team. His leadership. He's obviously a well-respected member of the squad. Listen, he's a great shot stopper as well. But we can't lie and say there isn't deficiencies in his game. And I think coming out and commanding his area is probably apart from maybe using his feet, which he's kind of adapted to a wee bit better than I thought he would. I think that's probably his biggest weakness. But I don't think it's only Joe Hart that's guilty of this. I think there's a lack of aggression from Celtic when it comes to defending set plays and cross balls. And there's a lack of height as well in terms of Carol Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers. But I think the aggression's the biggest thing, and I'd like to see just somebody in there showing a bit of leadership. When you touched upon that first Dundee goal on Sunday, I mean, the ball travels right across the box. It's right to the back post. Nobody moves. And I think as much as we talk about Joe Hart being a leader within the dressing room, I do agree that he has to lead on the pitch as well when it comes to kind of set pieces. He should be the one organising people and telling people if he's coming for it. And if he's not coming for it, maybe that's an instruction. I don't know. Maybe it's something we should ask him about. But I do think at the moment, his reluctance to come out and his lack of aggression defending set plays and the centre halves, lack of aggression, is costing Celtic, and hopefully it won't cost him tonight.
Rob McEwen goes in. Last night has been great, let's be honest. He doesn't command the 6-yard box and can be slow getting into position. Maybe that's what we've been just discussing there. Yeah. Maybe so. But again, I'm like you, I'm loath to criticise Joe Hart because he has been night and day to the Celtic backup goalkeepers who are currently there at the minute.
Here's a comment for you, Tony. I think it's maybe at you, the prestige of winning the third-tier competition. Mr. Brennan with the...
Yeah, absolutely no prestige whatsoever in progressing in a third-tier European competition, only created for Champions League miserable figures. I completely and utterly disagree with that, Frank. It's all about opinions, isn't it? I think if Celtic were the first name to be inscribed in that European trophy, the Celtic fans would love it. and they would be the first name inscribed in 2 major European trophies. First one being the Champions League trophy just now as we know it, and the inaugural European Conference League. So I think if you asked any Celtic supporter if they would like that, they would take it. And I'm not asking if they'd like that to the detriment of losing the league. I'm just talking about that in a salty situation itself. Would you take that, Sean?
I totally, I agree with you for that. I think if you're in it, you need to be in it to win it. I think Ange's made it clear, even though he doesn't want to be in this tournament, he would rather be in either the Champions League or Europa League. He's made it clear that if he's in it, he wants to make a statement in it, and you don't make a statement by going into the first hurdle.
Taking it in isolation, Sean, do you agree? Graeme, do you agree with that as well, that Celtic would want to be the first name inked on that trophy?
Of course I would, yeah. I mean, I get what Frank's saying in terms of, as you touched upon there, it's not the prestige tournament that Celtic want to be involved in, but it exists because there is this kind of gap now between the very kind of top teams and maybe your likes of your Celtics. And all right, I think probably Celtic's level at the moment is maybe Europa League, I would argue. Well, that's what they should be aspiring to. But certainly, this is still a European competition, and it's well worth, if you're going to be in it, trying to win it. And there's as much for the experiences for the players as much as the glory of bringing it to Celtic. I think it's a valuable experience for the whole squad. So, I understand what Frank's saying to a degree, but at the same time, I think when you're in it, you've got to try and do your best, your utmost to win it.
I'll ask Frank if Celtic get to the final in Tirana, would he book tickets for Albania? He can come back to me in that one. I'm sure he would. Now, 3-1 down, been some good comebacks. It wouldn't rank as the greatest comeback ever, Sean, but it would be up there in terms of a European comeback. Celtic to go away from home and score 3 goals to advance in the tie. Would it be up there for you? Those are the position they find themselves in.
It would be a very, very good result. There's no doubt about that. And I do think that it would almost be maybe retrospectively looked on a wee bit worse because Bodo Glimt aren't a massive name, and it almost would be looked back on as well. They should have beat them anyway. But in context of this season and the fact that Bodo Glimt haven't lost it at home at all in anything, friendly competition, anything since July, plus the conditions, plus everything else, plus the way that they played against in the first leg, I think it would be a really good result.
Graeme, yourself, do you think it'd be a good European result for Celtic if they could turn this around?
I think it'd be a huge achievement. I mean, I understand that Bodo Glimt are the sexiest name that you've ever had in a European tie, but you've just got to look, as Sean says, at their record over the last, kind of 24 months, especially here. So, I mean, everybody talks obviously about the Roma result, but that shows you what you're up against. I know it wasn't a full-strength Roma team, but this is a team here who's well drilled. They've been together. They know a system. So even when they lose players, the guys just come in and fit straight into it. And they're kind of maybe a year down the line, maybe 2 years down the line from what Celtic are at the moment. So with all that taken into kind of the context of the match and as Sean says, the conditions as well, and the fact that it's a 2-goal deficit and how poorly Celtic played in the first game, I think if they do turn it around, it'd be a massive achievement.
I would say to Mr. Brennan, keep that just in case money to the side, Frank, in the drawer. You know what I mean? The Albanian money, just in case.
There's one for you, Tony. What do you think about that one?
Jason Lee comes in and disagrees with Graeme, saying, how can we say that Europa League quality were getting destroyed by Bodo? I didn't necessarily think they got destroyed by Bodo. They were beaten on the night by a better team and Celtic underperformed. Would you go with that?
Listen, it's more about what they should be aspiring to as well. Like Celtic, people do forget it is a transitional season for Celtic. Because they've achieved so much in such a relatively short space of time. I think if we rewind a wee bit and go back to the kind of pre-season times, no one expected Celtic to do much at all this season, I don't think. And the fact that where they are is a credit to Ange and the players and what they've managed to do. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that they're in the competition, so that's their level, I guess. But what I'm saying is they should be aspiring to at least be in the Europa League and obviously for next season, Champions League as well. But they are where they are just now, so you just have to go on with it.
Plus, I would make the argument that you could say that Bodo Glimt are probably Europa League quality as well, given what they've done this season. But also that the Europa League group Celtic were in was by far and away the highest quality group that was in the competition to begin with.
Well, Champions League quality quality.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
over the
At
last
least
5
one,
years, you know?
at least one Champions League quality team in that group, probably two. Celtic aspiring to be the third, and I don't think just because they're in the Conference League and just because they got beaten the first leg by a team that is as good this season as Bodo Glimt doesn't mean that Celtic are still Europa League quality. There was lots of positives to take from that Europa League campaign for me.
Okay, I asked you yesterday. I just want to see if your thoughts have changed 24 hours on. Sean, Celtic to go through or not?
I'll double down on Graeme having to sit there into extra time.
You said
I'm
yeah.
not about this at all, no way.
You think Celtic can overturn this and do it, Sean?
I think they can do it. Aye, I'll go with that.
Graeme, yourself?
I've still got doubts, Tony, I've got to say. But as you say, I think they'll do well. I think they'll do better in the game itself. I think they'll handle Bodo a bit better. But I think it'll just be a wee bridge too far, I've got to say.
Brian Roberts doesn't yet. You see in the final, Tony. Drinks on me.
Just for Tony, or does that extend to the
three drinks for the boys and girls, Alison as well. Brian, if that's not the deal, then I'm not coming. I'm not going. Yeah, so
solidarity, Tony. Solidarity.
Yes, Solidarnosc and all that. Yes. Just one thing left to tell everybody: we have a new deal for the Celtic Way. If you want to subscribe, it's £1 for 2 months, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You'll get notifications when Larry, Curly and Mo are on the video and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, £1 for 2 months. You can't say better than that for hitting the subscribe button, and you get some top quality content, and you get some videos like this as well, and some writings from myself, Graeme and Sean. You'll see them too, and Alison and other top columnists like Graeme McGarry as well, and all the analytics and tactical boys who do a wonderful job talking you through all the subtle nuances of football. So all I can say is good luck to Celtic tonight. Graeme, stay warm. Sean, hope your prediction comes true. Brian, we'll see you in Albania. Frank, we'll see you in Albania. Maybe not for the final, maybe just see you in Albania one day. And we'll reconvene tomorrow and see what happens after the big match. Enjoy the occasion, guys, and have a brilliant day. Take care. Thanks for your contribution, Sean. Thanks for contribution, Graeme. Always enjoy it. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.